Hello, everyone. Now, for those of you just discovering this little corner of the internet, you have landed in Sovereign Sandboxing, the YouTube channel where we build, play, and reflect on games that let us shape our own story. My name is Michael, and I had reversed my introduction there for whatever reason, but let's just kind of get into it. Okay, so we are back in The Sims 3. We are still continuing building the SimCity project. And today's build is actually one that I have been very much excited to do and one that I have been waiting for. And I do have a pretty unique approach and interpretation of what we'll be building today. So first and foremost, like what makes this build quite significant for me is that it finishes off the Far East Square neighborhood that I have been building on, which seems like forever. So we finally get to punctuate it and put an end to the Far East Square neighborhood. However, after today's episode, we will be coming back in a future episode just to do some edits for all the lots that we have built, but I'll talk a little bit more about that maybe later on. But what we are doing today is we are finishing things off by building an art gallery. And I had always planned this lot to be an art gallery that sits right beside the cyberpunk apartments. And I knew that I really wanted to have something here that had a lot of that took a lot of inspiration from modern architecture, and I wanted something that felt a lot more modern and helps to transition from Far East Square into more of an urban and dense kind of feel that takes a lot of architectural inspiration from US Northeast municipalities like New York, Brooklyn, even Boston, I would say, which is kind of the aesthetic that I've been going for the rest of the city. So I kind of wanted something to sort of bridge a very cultured neighborhood like Far East Square into something like a little corner that would help to bridge it back into some more of that Northeast inspired architectural approach. Now, the art gallery here is something that I was very excited for because I always knew that this was going to be an art gallery. I know I literally just said that, but every city has got an art gallery, and in The Sims 3 we get specific art gallery lots, and I feel that it's very important to include all of the community lots we possibly can. I mean, that is really the antithesis of why I had started out this SimCity project to begin with. However, with today's lot build, I was just generally very excited just to finally finish off an urban neighborhood and to also bring in like a completely new community lot type to my build here. Now, what we are going to be starting off with is we are starting off with, I guess, like a workshop, because my vision when it comes to art galleries, and I'll share a little bit more of this as we continue on the episode, but to share with you initially, like my vision of an art gallery is that if you have a sim that lives in a very cozy apartment and you don't have access to all of the to all of the art objects, or if you have like a sim that's living in a smaller apartment but you really want them to be a sculptor, for example, well, you don't have to, force your way to make space. You can actually just send them to the art gallery and they can level up their skills. So the art gallery really serves as a place to raise your artistic skills. It serves as a place to showcase your art, of course, which is a big theme of the different galleries that we are going to have here. And it also showcases, it also brings in the function of being a place that can host public parties and all of that. And I'll kind of share a little bit more on that. So when it comes to the art gallery here, we are really aiming to address those three different functions, being the art skilling, for painting, drawing. I realize this now, but you can't do like architectural sketches, so I have my notebook handy, so that might actually make it into the edit episode if I feel that it is necessary to include that. But you can do some creative skill skilling here. This is a place where you can host public parties at, and of course show off your art. And yeah, I really love the triple function that this one is trying to bring. And in the beginning of today's episode, we really go in heavy on some of the artisanal skill functions here, and I sort of created this separate warehouse-like building to hold, to be able to make the artisanal skill object make sense. And this artisanal like oven or forge, I should say, has made an appearance before in this series. We did place it in the festival grounds build episode that I did way back when in Old Town. However, it makes a reappearance here because it does make sense to kind of have it here. Back in the Old Town, back in the the festival grounds build that I was doing, it served more as like a blacksmith forge, whereas here it's actually a little more it's more about leveling up the skill, I would say. And yes, it kind of shares some themes with being a blacksmithy in of itself, but you can also do glass blowing with this particular object too. And by the way, this artisanal forge is something that was a part of a Sims 3 store set, a set that I've never really played around with too much, but because this is a premium object, you can actually make custom jewelry for Sims and such, and it just seems like a really cool gameplay element that I wanted to include. And as you guys know, I am no stranger to the Sims 3 store, and I felt that this particular set was something that I have never really played with, but I really respected it. So I wanted to actually give it a proper time and place for where it could make sense in a Sims 3 world. And that's really, and there's no better place in my opinion than including it in the art gallery. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this factory thing that I had thought I was actually doing something very creative and ambitious with, but it kind of falls flat. And by kind of, I mean it totally falls flat here, and it is, I'm gonna have to take a wrecking ball to this to this thing here. Okay, so this was the vision that I had going in. So I wanted the forge object to make sense. So I really wanted to place it in this factory that has been kept for heritage purposes, but it's some sort of an old glass factory even. But the problem is that there is no factory on the existence of this planet Earth that really looks like this stacked chimney thing. I don't even know. Like, I don't know how this is like actually totally borderlining on embarrassing here, that I would just build this straight up chimney that just goes and does whatever. It's embarrassing. And yeah, I built it, and guess what? I have to live with it for a couple of weeks on this channel. So yeah, I hope you guys are at least finding it funny, because it is not great at all. But yeah, the idea was like some sort of an old glass factory that has been repurposed, and it's open air, and it's got an open air veranda to it. And I will give myself credit where credit is due. I do like the inside and the interior design. I do like the open air concept for the veranda that just kind of opens out there, but I hate the exterior. It totally lacked vision. I don't even know what I was thinking when I had actually built this and thought that this was okay. This is awful. It's totally on the chopping block here. Like, this is probably the single worst thing about Far East Square right now, is this one little structure. The rest of the art gallery though does turn out pretty well, and I do stand by that choice, but we'll talk a little more about that later. Okay, so these are the things I like. I do like the interior. I like the open air veranda that I have going there. To me, that would make sense. Even in the dead of winter, your forge is still very hot and warm. And, I was thinking that if you are a glass blower, or if you are someone who uses a forge like this, you would want a very cool room anyways. I also like the size of this structure. I don't I'm not crazy over the amount of floors like it reaches, because I did decide to, terrace it, make it look like the most hideous chimney in the world. But it's five or 4 stories tall. I believe it's 4 stories tall. I see it's on a foundation. It doesn't necessarily need to be that tall, but I do like the massing around it. And yeah, the whole idea here was just that this is an art gallery. It's a modern architectural structure, and it is a building site that has been redeveloped from like old warehouse, like vintage warehouses, like a warehouse district that has been redeveloped as a modern art gallery. And I don't really lean so heavy into the warehouse idea, and this is why this will make it into the edit episode when I get around to filming it. But the building site here is really just to suggest that there were certain heritage elements, like this particular heritage structure, that needed to be saved for legal purposes. And I surround it with some overgrowth and a little bit of a pond here, just to, again, give it some intrigue, give it some character. And I even added in like one of those ruins, which is from the Island Paradise expansion pack, if I remember correctly. It's actually like technically an underwater ruin, but I felt that it was kind of perfect just to really try to tell the story, that there were heritage structures on this site, and there were a lot of, and that this is a redeveloped construction site. So yeah, that was really the idea behind all of this, and I really dropped the ball when it came to developing the warehouse itself, because I don't know, again, like I don't even know what I was thinking here. How I even thought that this was remotely acceptable is something that I will have to answer for the rest of time, I suppose. But yeah, this is really not it, you guys. This is not the vibe that I was going for. And looking back on it now, like when I was building the art gallery, like all throughout it, I was really thinking that I was going to be standing by this structure and that I thought it was such a unique piece. But now that I've actually had a chance to stand back and actually look at it, it's garbage. It's awful. And I don't stand by it at all. And it is the very first thing that I am knocking down when I film the Far East Square edit episode, which, at the time of recording here is could happen any day. So, it's not going to stay like that at the end of it. I'm even contemplating like whether or not I should put in the upload, the upload link, or even upload it. But anyways, I'll probably still upload it anyways. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about like what's going well here. The area around the warehouse feels a lot more utilitarian, and that is on purpose. I really want it, like I love conveying like where a building drops its garbage off, and I really love adding in some grunge and grit, even outside of the cyberpunk apartments that I did, which it was nothing but grunge and grit. I love that kind of element throughout the rest of the city. And now that I've downloaded those new custom content from Cyclonic Hughes, or Cyclonic Hughes, I don't know how to pronounce his username, but it's from it's from The Sims Resource, and they do an amazing job with building out some urban grunge objects and stuff. And yeah, I am absolutely going to continue to use them wherever I can, because I love that element of storytelling in these structures, especially within an urban neighborhood such as this. And yeah, it also helps to tie in the cyberpunk apartments that are just sitting next door to this art gallery here. So it's very much something like the area around the warehouse is something that I do stand by, and I do love the overgrowth and the little pond that I gave it. I thought that it really adds a nice little natural feature as well. But yeah, I love how that all turned out. And when it comes to the parking spot for the truck, originally my idea was that the truck would be like the handyman's truck, or the truck that belongs to the groundskeeper. However, I do end up replacing that with a food truck parking space, and then I start to extend it out to like an impromptu little place to have, to eat the food from the food truck, which is great and has some suspicious moodlets attached to it. but yeah, the area around the warehouse I absolutely do stand by, and I really do enjoy the grungy elements that are tied in with it, just to show that there is a place that this building drops off its garbage, which has been a big reason why I have been adding alleyways and everything to all of the downtown buildings, and even to some of the suburban ones as well, in Bridgeview at the very least. So I was very happy to be able to achieve that kind of storytelling within this particular build in a way that I felt was acceptable, and also not overpowering or overdoing the entire vision of the art gallery. The art gallery, in truth, was really designed to complement these cyberpunk apartments. And I did decide to make it a lot more cubey and a lot more arty and a lot more modern, is really what I'm trying to say. And it's kind of like, I really wanted to tell the story within this particular lot build, that this was what SimCity had intended all along, which was something that was very polished, something very modern, something very striking and daring and all of that. However, when it comes to the cyberpunk apartments, it just ended up in disaster because they ran out of funding at that point. So it's like, this lot really represents where all of the funding started, and then the cyberpunk apartments next door represents where all of the funding ended and where it all kind of trickled out to be. So the bigger story here, and the bigger scheme of things that I was intending to convey within this particular lot build and within SimCity, is just that bigger story that's at hand. And I like that because it helps to interconnect everything a little more closely together. As you will notice on screen, there is a lot of cubes going on here. That's really the modern architectural interpretation that I have decided to put forward here. And I have called this art gallery the Cube House Galleries for that very reason. And it's really something that I had decided to do because I was taking a lot of inspiration of stacked cubes as houses. Like, there were some inspirations from Montreal, and even like an office building under construction right now in Vancouver in Canada there, where it just looks like a bunch of stacked cubes and stacked boxes. And because the cyberpunk apartments had a very similar vibe and approach with its architecture, in that it is very boxy and the like, it was something that I really wanted to continue on here. So it's really where a lot of my inspiration was coming from. And it was really there was a missed opportunity here, though, I will admit, in that I could have made some sort of a Portal reference with all of these cubes. So I missed out on that reference, and I'm just kind of like thinking of it here, and I've got my notebook open right in front of me, so I'm gonna write that down as maybe something to kind of explore when I get around to it. So that could be something that I do in one of the outdoor spaces where I just have a couple of benches, is just sort of make it some sort of an homage to the to the what was it called, the Compassionate cube from Portal. I completely forget, you guys, but it's another video game reference, and it's a video game that I really enjoy. But let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room here. And I say that strangely because I cut out a lot of footage, and a lot of the footage here was just me experimenting. And that lost footage was left out on purpose because all I was really doing was trying to match sizes of each of the, quote unquote cube rooms that this structure is composed of, which is just, again, like I said, it's a bunch of stacked cubes, one on top of the other. And so I was really experimenting with different sizes of those stacked cubes because I really wanted them to be as symmetrical as possible. Yet at the same time, it needed to fit the space. So there was a lot of just me experimenting around with that and figuring out what that sizes was going to be like and what that form was going to be like. And so I decided that because a lot of that footage was just me fooling around and figuring out like how I want this structure to evolve, I decided it was best to just like cut it completely and just talk about a little bit more on the interior design and the choices that I was making with this particular structure. And let me know how you guys feel about that in the comment section below. Would that have been a process that you would have liked to see? For me, like, I'm trying to get into the habit of trying to make shorter episodes for you guys, just because I feel that sometimes my stuff is a little too long-winded. Like, I clearly don't mind releasing an episode that is an hour long if it warrants it, but for a single family home, for example, I think that that's a little excessive. And because we are just over the 30-minute mark, like over the 35-minute mark for this episode, I felt that that was a pretty good balance considering all the work and effort that I did put into this. Not that's to say that, you know, the more work and time that I spend on a lot build, the more footage you guys should be watching, because I don't feel that I don't feel that that kind of equals each other. But anyways, I am kind of getting a little off topic here. But I did cut out a lot of footage just to save on time, and I felt that it was keeping the episode a lot more concise so that I can share a little more about the vision without feeling pressured to talk about what the process actually was. Back to the build at hand here. I did almost leave the roof of the cafe object from the Into the Future expansion pack on here. And the reason why I took it out is because I really wanted this to feel like a big stack of cubes, one on top of the other. And whether you think that's actually aesthetically pleasing is totally intended. I want this particular art gallery to once again be an architectural talking point. Not something that's necessarily like super beautiful, but something that gets talked about. It's more so trying to grab attention. So like in terms of aesthetics and everything, I think it does turn out nice, and I would say it looks nice, but it is totally controversial in terms of whether it actually is nice or whether it is indeed just a stack of cubes, which it is. It can be both. But yeah, I was really considering that roof object from Into the Future, but I just kind of felt like it took away from that vision a little too much. And I also okay, I talk a little bit more about this in the next episode, but for a version 2 of SimCity, I would definitely take out some lots and then I would put in others, and I would have a bit of a bigger plan as to where I would use this Into the Future cafe object. So that would be applied to that particular lot, but because it doesn't exist in version 1, we're not going to be getting anywhere near that for this series, to be completely honest with you, because I have a shit ton of lots to still build out here, and that especially takes into consideration Blue Water Village. But you know, the downtown island here has also got quite a considerable amount of lots that still have yet to be built as well. So, you know, I decided to, you know, note that object and put it in my back pocket for something that's very much further down into the future. The interior design of this art gallery was designed with accessibility in mind. Now, The Sims 3 doesn't do ramps very well, as we can tell with the Cyberpunk apartment build that I was doing, because I used some ramps and terrain molding with that, but that just doesn't play nice in The Sims 3. So I leaned away from ramps, even though this is an art gallery on a foundation with nothing but stairs as being accessible. But to me, the trade-off here was, to make it more accessible, I would just use elevators. Now, I could probably go back and maybe replace one of the elevators with stairs, but I felt that the lack of stairs in this case was necessary because I had a lot of space constraints, and for the interior of the actual art gallery in of itself, I really wanted to I really wanted the focus to be on the art and not necessarily on a staircase, if that makes any sense. I really wanted to leave a lot of space for players to you know, deck out with their own art. And yes, I will also mention that the color palette does evolve a little bit off screen as well. Again, it's one of those tedious things where I was experimenting with a lot of different materials and colors, etc., etc., and I just didn't feel like it was something worth watching. So you'll see the floors and walls change a bit without any warning. Probably happening right now. Obviously, the first floor is a lot more utilitarian. And by that I mean, like, this is the floor where you're going to be building up your art skills, like painting and sculpting. And I also added in the ballroom as well, because you can host parties on community lots. And, you know, kind of surprisingly, the art gallery is one of those locations that you can host a party at. Of course, you can host parties at bars too, which also makes sense in the context of The Sims 3, but that's kind of aside the point. I've always found that the art galleries were perfect for those political campaign, those political campaign fundraisers. That was the word I was looking for. I find that art galleries are perfect for that. Plus, like, if you have an artsy sim that's filling out one of the galleries there, it could be another perfect opportunity to host like a party at the gallery just to show off the art and all of that. There is something that I did write down as well, just kind of as I was reviewing the episode, and that's that I could have extended the like the ballroom space into the outdoors, just to kind of give it like some sort of an outdoor an outdoor area. The party room itself is like really nothing to write home about. I did purposely keep it a little more bare bones because I imagine that Sims will be, of course, you know, socializing in that space. There's a place to eat if you decide to purchase the food for the buffet table. But I imagine, like, the idea ideally would be that Sims would be walking around all over the art gallery and you'd be socializing in the different galleries. Now, knowing the Sims 3 game mechanics and everything, that probably won't end up being how it works out. They'll likely just congregate in that little ballroom area as soon as you have the food and the music going there. So, but the idea in a perfect world is that they would explore the art gallery a little more. But anyways, a big challenge of building this art gallery was figuring out where to put windows. I mean, there's that age-old saying, like, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? And when it comes to art galleries, if you have windows absolutely everywhere and you can look into it and actually look at the art itself, well, suddenly you're selling the product for free. So I was very challenged in that kind of sense, in that I had to find like specific exterior wallpaper to put out that would make sense for an art gallery, but also still looks nice. I also use some of those Into the Future wall lights on the art gallery. Now, the trick with those is that you have to turn them off in that space, because otherwise it just makes it too bright. But I really like the design on them, and so I just kind of place them on the corners of each of the cube galleries there. So I feel like it adds like a really nice touch to the exterior. Plus yeah, it makes it actually look a lot more interesting and a lot more intentional. I did use a lot of diagonal walls, and you know, that posed a lot of challenges in of itself. Like, I would put some of these cube galleries in at a 45-degree angle, and others were others were built straight up. Now, the reason why I did that is it would give that stack effect that I was looking for. And I also wanted to bring some new shapes into SimCity as well. So that was a way to kind of do it. And I also appreciated the challenge of building with diagonal walls. I hate building with diagonal walls. With that said, like, although I like the challenge in this particular context, I felt that it was appropriate to use a lot of diagonal walls, but I am avoiding diagonal walls like the plague here, you guys. Like, you can't make me do them if I don't want to do them. So I absolutely hate the diagonal walls no matter what. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, they just don't make for good spaces. The hallways were really the only place where I decided to put in some windows, and I just used the modern like floor to ceiling windows because I felt like it added in some decent natural light into the area, but it also didn't give away the art gallery either. So that was just really where I was very selective in adding windows. And plus, like, with it being the cube house, like, the different cubed galleries didn't really look good one, you know, directly against the other. Like it just looked kind of confusing in terms of the shape. So I had to separate them a little bit by hallways there, and I tried to make the hallways as you know, as squared up and as as straight edge as I possibly could. And the windows helped to just kind of keep that theme throughout. Like I wasn't about to put circular windows within those hallways there. Speaking of which, like, let's talk about the art galleries into themselves. So essentially, like I keep saying, this art gallery is just a bunch of cubes stacked on more cubes. And I kept the art gallery very bare on purpose. And that purpose is really to invite players to fill the art gallery with their own Sims art. And I feel like, although I love the other art gallery builds that are out there in the Sims 3 world, I just feel like it just adds a whole other challenge and purpose to this particular lot that I think that Sim players would really enjoy. Like, I think it would be a great challenge to try to fill up one of these galleries with your Sims art. Like, you know, it kind of gives like Animal Crossing vibes, because with the museum there, you would try to fill up the museum as best as you can. And here's like another similar challenge. Can you as a player fill up this art gallery with your Sims art? And the best part is because like each of these cubes are essentially like different galleries or different exhibitions. You can have several different Sims actually produce art and fill up each gallery in their own way there. And I think that that is like a really great challenge, a unique way to play artistic Sims, and, you know, another way to really invite the art gallery and give it more purpose is really what I'm trying to say. So yeah, every cube on the second and above levels are all galleries for you guys to fill out. And that's why I kept it very bare bones and minimum. And I used very minimal lighting just so that it's well lit, but you don't have any, you know, ceiling lights that are distracting. And Sims 3 doesn't really have a lot of great, you know, inset lights or even fluorescent lights for that matter. But I'm getting aside of myself here. So yeah, it's a very similar challenge to something in the Animal Crossing world. You are invited in this world and in this game to really build up your own cubes. And yeah, I kind of love that idea for players to just really explore, you know, filling out this art museum with this art gallery with their own Sims creations. With all that said, I am afraid that I have to leave it here for you guys. If the tours aren't already playing, then feel free to stick around for those. In the next episode, we are heading back to Blue Water Village. I've already got the episode filmed, recorded, and all that jazz for another single family home build. And I think you guys will like it. I really love the floor plans and how they turn out, but I will talk to you about those in that next one there. If you enjoyed this video and if you've been enjoying this series, then feel free to like this video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I just want to take another moment here just to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have yourselves a wonderful day.